The Ivy League is returning to the postseason for the first time in 91 years. I thought it would be fun in this video to give a quick history on why that is, how I think they would have fared in the years they chose not to participate, how I think they will do this weekend, and how I think they will do in the postseason moving forward. Let's get chronic. For a league that has a proud football history as founding fathers, so to speak, and were major heavy hitters for the early part of college football history, this is a big deal. I know the players and fans of the most recent postseason game for one of these institutions, the 1934 Columbia Lions, are so proud to see this moment come to fruition. Or they would be if they weren't all dead. Schools that make up what is now the Ivy League have claimed at least a share of 77 national championships, all of which occurred before the college and university divisions split in 1957. In plainer terms, these titles were all considered top-level college football titles, as everyone playing were in the same giant pond until 1957. All titles also occurred before the Ivy League Football Conference was even officially created, with the first season being in 1956. In 1950, Princeton was the last team of the future prestigious group of schools to claim a national title, but as you may have guessed, did not play in the postseason. Now for that, you have to go back to the 1934 Rose Bowl, which was the culmination of the 1933 season. In that game, the Columbia Lions defeated the Stanford Indians 7-0. The league banned its members from bowl games starting in 1946, according to my research, which is a bit confusing since the Football League didn't begin, as I said, until 1956, and the overall league only 2 years prior in 1954. It would seem the league was in the pre-stages of forming as early as 1945, but I'm not 100% certain. Someone please clear that up in the comments if you know more about that nugget of info. The league remained at the highest level of football for a bit longer until Division I split in 1982 in 1A and 1AA, what we now know as the FCS level. Any invite into the FCS playoffs would then be turned down due to academic concerns, with games often extending into December and colliding with fall semester finals. Anyways, back to the future. After the end of the 2024 season, students pushed hard for a change, and they got it. Over the offseason, the Ivy League announced that they would now compete in the FCS playoffs for the first time ever, and were approved to have their conference champion as an auto bid, now leaving the MEAC and the SWAC as the only holdout conferences in the FCS. At the time of this writing, Yale has just beaten Harvard 45-28 to punch that inaugural ticket, and wouldn't you know it, the Crimson were so good this season, even in defeat, that they will be joining the party with an at-large bid. Now before I go into my predictions, not only for this season, but for the future trend of how I think things might play out, I wanted to take a quick step back and highlight a few teams from the past 43 years that potentially missed out on something special. But before I start, remember this is all speculation, and I can't realistically know what would have played out. In all likelihood, these teams would have been smashed past the first round, as the majority of the teams were built with no longevity beyond the conference in mind, and to this day do not offer official football scholarships anyways. In 1984, Penn beat every FCS team on the schedule, with their lone loss coming 48-13 at Army. The team was never ranked. In 1986, Penn went 10-0 and finished the season ranked number 6. This team would not have gotten a top 4 seed, maybe would have played a beatable team like Jackson State or William & Mary in round 1. Ultimately, it's probable that Arkansas State or Georgia Southern would have spanked them though. In 1993, Penn again went 10-0 and finished ranked number 15. The team beat no ranked teams along the way, however. At the time, there were 16 spots, and even with the auto bid, you'd have to assume they'd get a very low seed. That would have had them matched up with either Georgia Southern or Montana, and probably a blowout loss. In 1994, Penn went 9-0 and finished ranked 14th with, again, no ranked wins. And again, this would have likely put them against Youngstown State, who went on to win the whole thing. I see a 70-10 game against that monster. In 1996, Dartmouth went 10-0 and finished ranked number 17. Without an auto bid, I assume they wouldn't have even made it. So logic tells me they would have been seeded 16th and played undefeated Montana. The Grizz won that first round game over Nicholls State, and I can't imagine the Big Green doing any better. In 2001, Harvard went 9-0 with a number 19 final ranking, but did beat number 19 Penn along the way. Fun fact, this team featured freshman quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. Not so fun fact, another low seeding would have been likely and a loss to eventual national champion Montana or 2-seeded Georgia Southern, though neither team blew out the first round, so maybe, just maybe, this would have been the most respectable scenario yet. 2002, Penn suffered only one loss to number 6 Villanova on the road and kept it close at 17-3, and Villanova went on to make the semifinals. This team with the right seeding could have maybe pulled a first round upset. In 2003, Penn went 10-0 and beat number 19 Lehigh in Game 2 on the road. the team finished the season at number 12. This means they would have probably avoided the top 4 seeds, and I actually think they win round 1 over, say, Bethune-Cookman. 2004 Harvard, now led by senior quarterback Ryan Fitzmagic, went 10-0, beating number 19 Northeastern and number 17 Penn along the way. They finished ranked number 12 and actually didn't have too many close games. This would have put them likely against Montana or Lehigh. If they pulled the latter, I think they win, as James Madison did, by 1 point. Then, they even have a shot to beat number 2 Furman, as James Madison also did by 1 point, and eventually went on to win it all. Regardless of seeding, I think this could have been very interesting. In 2014, Harvard went 10-0 but beat no ranked teams. The Crimson finished at number 15. And we should be closer to figuring out the realistic matchup as more info on auto qualifiers is available. The Patriot League's automatic qualifier was number 11 Fordham, meaning it's likely Harvard gets that seed, a seed above, or a seed below. Best I can guess is bumping Fordham up 1 and sliding the Crimson in right here. This means they would have hosted number 22 Sacred Heart. Give me a close win for Harvard, but then roadblock at number 1 New Hampshire in round 2, which was Fordham's final fate in real life, 44-19. In 2018, Princeton went 10-0 with 1 ranked win and finished number 9. Not only that, but the team also had John Lovett at quarterback, who won the Walter Payton Award, which is the FCS version of the Heisman. The Tigers dominated almost every team they played. I again think it's fair to give them the slot that the Patriot League champion got, as the ranking was only 1 off. This would have given Princeton a first-round bye and a second-round matchup with James Madison. In real life, Colgate won this game in this slot by 3. I think Lovett gives Princeton the edge and they actually get the win too. But it all ends in the quarterfinals as number 1 North Dakota State was waiting, who whips the toothpaste 34-0. To summarize, these bids would have likely all gone like basketball has, a low seeding with an occasional chance at a first-round upset. And honestly, that's just to name the better champs. The ones sneaking in with 2 to 3 losses likely suffer even worse fates. And now that brings us to the present. On Saturday, Yale will face 15-seeded Youngstown State, coming in with an 8-2 record ranked 21st. Harvard, at 9-1, ranked number 19, will face 12-seeded Villanova. Both teams are on the road. Youngstown State is 8-4, but those losses came to FBS Michigan State, number 2 South Dakota State, number 13 North Dakota, and number 1 North Dakota State. They kept it close in most games. Yale dropped a game to number 9 Lehigh, who is now 12-0, ranked 4th, and another to Dartmouth. Let's make this simple. YSU is battle-tested, and while they lost some of those battles, they are at home and know what they're doing. Give me the Penguins around 45-14. As for Harvard, their only loss is to Yale, and they previously dominated most teams on the back of a strong defense outside of the Yale and Penn games. Villanova was blown out by Penn State and beaten pretty soundly by number 21 Monmouth early in the season. This matchup is a little closer in my mind. Though I could be completely wrong, I like Villanova in this one due to their experience, but Harvard keeps it closer. Wildcats 28-17. My tagline on this channel does mention college football content from the past, present, and future, so now I want to predict where I see the Ivy League in the FCS playoffs going from here. This one's kinda easy to compare since the Ivy League does not offer football scholarships. We need simply to look at another FCS conference that does not offer scholarships. The Pioneer League has gone to the FCS playoffs since 2013 with a bunch of walk-ons, and they have gone mostly terrible, but not completely terrible. That's right, I'm telling you there's a chance that the future isn't so gloomy. The Pioneers sent its first automatic qualifier to the playoffs in 2013, where Butler lost 31-0 to Tennessee State. However, by 2016, San Diego was able to beat Cal Poly 35-21 in the first round before being sunk in the second. San Diego again stomped Northern Arizona 41-10 in the first round of 2017 before losing in the second. It has been pretty horrific since then, with losses with scores like 41-0 and 66-3. With this comparison, we can conclude that the Ivy teams are likely going to lose in the first round a lot, but maybe not forever. But wait a minute. I don't think it is necessarily that easy to do a 1 versus 1 comparison, and this upcoming take may sound insulting, and maybe I need it to be to get my point across. I actually think the Ivy League will be a bit stronger than the Pioneer League when it comes to the long-term future. I may be completely wrong on this take, but hear me out. The Pioneer League seems to be made up of football players who are around Division III level talent who just want the grandeur of playing Division I football. In comparison, that greed is likely lower at the Ivy League schools because they can boast that prestige on the school name itself. This, in my opinion, leads to slightly better athletes as a whole than the Pioneer League. So long term, I expect the lack of scholarships and weaker schedule to hinder the Ivy League from ever actually competing for a national title. with the likes of Montana or Dakota schools anytime in my life if things stay the same. Even if the current powerhouses out west move up sometime and leave the field more open, there's still far too much football competition in the South and Northeast that have many more advantages. So while the Ivy is obviously going to remain many steps below contention as long as there are no scholarships, I still think they rise a step above the Pioneer to form their own level tier. Let me know in the comments your predictions for Harvard and Yale this weekend if you're seeing this video before the games, or let me know your prediction for the Ivy League's future if you're seeing this afterwards. This has been College Football Chronicles, and I hope you join me again soon.